Graceland stood still to honor Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, for almost 50 years. After Elvis Presley's death, the attic at Graceland was locked up tight for almost 50 years. Even his close family had never been there because it was dusty and forgotten. But when they finally opened it, they didn't just find old photos or clothes that sparkled. There was a person living there. It made me feel things that were very personal. They were so deep that they were almost scary. Who had been staying hidden in Elvis's loft the whole time? And did Elvis's family know about it? Let's find out who has been in Elvis Presley's locked attic for 48 years. The Mysteries of Graceland. Elvis Presley, who was only 22 years old at the time, drove through the gates of what would become one of the most famous houses in the world on a cool spring day in 1957. In 1882, the big white house on the edge of Memphis was bought for $12,000. That's almost $1 million today. The name didn't change. Graceland was fine with him the way it was. Before Elvis, Graceland was just a house. But very quickly, it became a part of him. It took up almost 14 acres of land. There were stables and barns, and horses were running around the fields. There were lots of people there. A monkey named Scatter lived there and was one of the wildest animals there. He took him to parties and dressed him in tiny clothes. Things were always going on with Scatter. He would pull on women's clothes or take drinks from their hands. The staff used to say that Scatter was like Elvis's wild side, which he didn't always show to other people. It was 1964, and the Beatles were taking over America. Elvis found a quiet place to be alone. The name of it was the Meditation Garden. Under the sky of Tennessee, there were flowers, ponds, and tall white columns. He would sit there and think, away from all the noise. It wasn't at all like how crazy he was on stage. A lot of people never got to see this side of Elvis. Calm, peaceful, and thoughtful. Different parts of Graceland showed different sides of him. The yard showed his calm side. There was green shag carpet on the walls and floor of a room called the Jungle Room. The furniture looked like it came from an island far away. He had a TV room in the basement where he could watch 3 shows at once. In the 1960s, that meant a lot. In the tennis building, there was a piano where Elvis played his last songs before he died. Elvis died here around 3:30 this afternoon. He was found in his bathroom, not moving and not awake. But on August 16, 1977, everything changed. The king of rock and roll died that day in the bathroom upstairs. Graceland wasn't just a house after that. It turned into a shrine. A puzzle and a still moment in time. Over the next few days, almost 100,000 fans came to Memphis. To say goodbye, they stood in the streets and cried outside the gates. Elvis was lying in the house wearing a white suit and a blue shirt. People who saw him that way will never forget it. 17 white Cadillacs led the funeral through the city on August 18. There were well-known people there, like Caroline Kennedy, James Brown, and Sammy Davis Jr. Priscilla, Lisa Marie, 9 years old, and Elvis's sad father, Vernon Presley, were also there. Elvis was buried at Forest Hill Cemetery next to his mother, Gladys. His family thought that he could finally rest in peace, but it didn't last. Something terrible happened just 2 days after the funeral. A group of men broke into the graveyard in the middle of the night and tried to steal Elvis's casket. They were not successful. Before they were caught, they only heard a small part of the tomb. It was still clear what the meaning was. Elvis wasn't safe even after he died. It was terrible for Vernon Presley. He didn't want to take any more chances. He had Elvis and Gladys moved in secret with the help of the cops. They were buried again in the middle of the night. This time it was in the Meditation Garden at Graceland, which Elvis had made as a place to relax and be alone. Again, that choice changed Graceland. It wasn't just a house or a tribute anymore. It turned into a stronghold. To make things safer, Vernon put in new alarms, hired guards to watch over the property 24 hours a day, and blocked off some areas, like the whole second floor and the attic above it. The real reason was easy to understand. Safety. No one should go into Elvis's bedroom, the bathroom where he died, or his personal area because they care about his family. But as time went on, fewer and fewer people believed that story. Fans were able to walk through most of Graceland when it opened to the public in 1982, after Vernon had died. They looked at the bright stained glass windows in the living room and the kitchen where Elvis made peanut butter and banana sandwiches. They also stood quietly at his grave. They were never let upstairs, though. There were ropes around the stairs. The door to the attic stayed shut. No one, not even world leaders, could go up there. The tour guides always said the same thing. Because of the family, the floor is off limits. It stayed that way for 48 years. No one went up. No one touched the loft. It became a part of the puzzle. Tourists would look at the gold records and jeweled jumpsuits, but they always looked up, as if they knew something about what was above them. Even though the locked attic kept physical secrets out of reach, there was something even scarier that was right there in plain sight. How the king of rock and roll really died. What did Elvis's doctor know that most people in the US didn't? The King falls. Graceland was quiet on August 16, 1977. It began like many other days in Elvis Presley's later years. The bedroom was dark and cool, and the blinds were closed tight to keep the afternoon sun out. Elvis was 42 years old and used to staying up all night and sleeping most of the day. He would sometimes be awake for days before he finally fell into a deep sleep that was induced. She woke up around 2 in the afternoon. Her name is Ginger Alden. Elvis was still in bed, though. That wasn't strange. She did what she normally did in the morning because she thought he would get up soon. But by noon, something didn't feel right. It was too quiet in the house. She knocked on the bathroom door around 2:30. Nothing. When she opened it, Elvis was lying on the floor. His underwear was down to his feet. His face was blue. She yelled for help. Elvis's road manager and close friend Joe Esposito ran upstairs. Right away, he started CPR while someone else called an ambulance. In no time at all, the rescuers showed up. They tried over and over to get him back, while sirens blared through the hot Memphis streets as they sped toward Baptist Memorial Hospital. Doctors did everything they could, but by 3:30 p.m., they said Elvis Presley was dead. The news heard a lot. Radio stations cut short their normal shows. Fans started to cry. The king was only 42 years old. How could he have died so quickly? That same night, the medical examiner for the case, Dr. Jerry Francisco, stood in front of the press. His answer was short and easy to understand. He had died of heart arrhythmia. It stopped beating all of a sudden. He said it was natural reasons. That's it. But I didn't feel right. People knew Elvis had changed a lot even in 1977. The healthy star had put on a lot of weight. Almost 260 pounds. He sometimes forgot the words to his songs, talked too much between songs, and couldn't even stand up without help. Behind the scenes, there was a darker side to medicine. At the autopsy, there were signs of years of using drugs that were bad for him. His heart was too big, his liver was swollen, and his body had damage that was consistent with using prescription drugs for a long time. What Dr. Francisco hadn't said was shown in the lab report that came after. Elvis's blood had a lot of strong drugs in it, like in C******, to name a few. Why did Dr. Francisco lie, then? Some people thought he did it to keep Elvis's name safe and keep his family from going through more pain. Others thought it was more than that. They thought it was a lie to protect both Elvis and the doctors who kept giving him drugs. That's where Dr. George Nikopoulos comes in. He was known as Dr. Nick by most people. Since 1967, he had been Elvis's personal doctor. From January to August 1977, the last 8 months of Elvis's life, Dr. Nick wrote orders for more than 10,000 pills, some of which were S******, S******, and S******. It wasn't much better the year before. In 1976, he gave out almost 19,000 pills. When people looked into it more, they found that Elvis had 195 medications in the 8 months before he died. That's about 1 dose every 2 days. Dr. Nick knew how to fix everything. He said Elvis had real health problems, like glaucoma that was very bad, a painful gut disease called regional enteritis, and pain from a head injury he got in the army. He said that those things needed the pills to be fixed. But his strangest reason came later. He said that he was trying to keep Elvis safe. He said that giving him all those drugs was better than letting him get them on the street or from sketchy doctors. Dr. Nick told medical boards, he would have gotten them somewhere else if I hadn't given them to him. He said he was keeping an eye on Elvis and trying to slowly cut down on his use of drugs that were bad for him. But the Elvis that people saw in his last days wasn't the same man who changed music forever. After taking heavy sleeping pills to knock himself out, he would stay awake for days on end. He had bad eating habits. He ate a lot of greasy food and then took strong laxatives to trim down. Elvis took the same mix of drugs he always did on his last day. He got up early and played tennis. After that, he took more pills and went back to bed. Most likely, those last amounts were too much. His heart. He gave up because he was too weak from being overweight and using drugs for years. The people in Tennessee didn't believe Dr. Nick's story. In 1980, he was charged with 14 counts of giving too many pills to patients, including Elvis. He was later found not guilty, but things didn't stop there. His work was looked into over and over by the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners. And 18 years after Elvis died, in 1995, they took away his license to practice medicine for good. Things got even more confusing in 2020. Destined to Die Young is the name of a book written by Sally A. Hodel. She said that Elvis's genes caused him to have major health problems. Her study showed that Elvis had a condition known as alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, an illness that makes your lungs and liver hurt. She also said it was likely that his immune system was weak, which might be why he got sick so often and needed so many medicines. If she's right, Elvis might not have been just a bad drug user. Doctors didn't fully understand his conditions back then, so he might have been really sick. He didn't just get pills when he went to the hospital. They could have been real crises. It's still not clear what killed Elvis, and his personal doctor lost his license in the end. This makes you wonder if someone was trying to hide the truth forever. Or maybe someone was trying to finally make it public? Trying to hide lies from everyone. In the spring of 2024, news came out that shocked Elvis Presley's many fans. Nozani Investments and Private Lending LLC, a business no one had ever heard of, quietly put Graceland up for auction. It is the most famous rock and roll landmark in the world. Court records show that Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter, was the only person in charge of his assets after Lisa Marie Presley died in 2023. Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's only child, has died. At age 54, her mother, Priscilla, confirmed the news that she was being charged with not paying back a $3.8 million loan. The news was not expected. Even Elvis fans who know everything there is to know about his life and impact were upset. Very quickly, there was a lot of fear and confusion on fan pages and forums. The lawyers for Riley Keough didn't waste any time. They hurried to Shelby County, Tennessee, court and asked the judge to stop the sale right away. Their claim was true. It was all a lie. The papers they filed show that Riley never signed anything with Nozani Investments. The signs didn't look real, it looked like someone made up her name to take over Graceland. But time was running out. The date of the sale was already set. Graceland would be sold in a few days if Riley's team couldn't quickly get the court to step in. That included everything inside. Unknown people would have Elvis's private items, his rare records, and even the rooms upstairs that no one was ever allowed to go into. Finally, a judge in Tennessee made his choice just one day before the auction was set to take place. The sale was stopped right away. He said Graceland was a unique cultural asset and that the people would be very sad if it was lost. What's more, no one from Nozani Investments showed up to court. There were lawyers for Riley, but no one from the company looking to sell Graceland. No one argued against the judge's ruling, so it stood. Elvis kept Graceland for himself. This was not the first time that Graceland had gotten this strange of attention. The house has been the center of one of the stranger famous stories since Elvis's death in 1977. That Elvis didn't really die. People said they saw Elvis for the first time just hours after it was reported that he had died. He got a one-way ticket to Buenos Aires at the Memphis airport with the name John Burroughs, which Elvis actually used when he traveled. The man who looked just like Elvis did this. The person who saw him said he looked a lot like Elvis and was wearing a white suit and sunglasses even though it was late at night. After about 2 weeks, a woman in Michigan said Elvis served her at a Kalamazoo Burger King. When he asked her if she wanted more cheese, she knew it was him. That was a voice I knew. A lot of people thought these kinds of stories would end, but they didn't. They came over and over. Through 1979, there were many stories from all over the country. In Oklahoma, Elvis was seen getting gas. Elvis is in a food store in Missouri. Elvis with a fake beard at a show in Nashville. This story got so much attention that in 1988, the tabloid Weekly World News added a regular piece called Elvis Watch to keep track of all the sightings. The ideas got even stranger over time. Some people said Elvis helped the FBI fight organized crime and then went into a scheme to protect witnesses. Some people thought he faked his death to get away from the stress of being so popular. At one point, it was said that he had cancer and just wanted to die without anyone looking. People who thought these things said that his funeral had some strange features. They said it was way too heavy, that his box weighed 900 pounds. They also didn't understand why the family picked a closed casket after letting everyone see the body. And most famously, they saw something strange on his gravestone. Aaron was spelled wrong as his given name. They said that the family would never get that wrong, unless Elvis wasn't really dead. Then the web came along. There were whole websites made in the early 2000s just to show that Elvis was still living. Watch movies on YouTube that try to match his voice with that of a preacher named Bob Joyce, whose singing sounds eerily like the King's. Online groups still fight about where Elvis might be in 2025, which is almost 50 years after the fact. Some people think he's living in a small town with a different name. Some people think he still goes to Graceland sometimes, but dresses up so no one can see him. These ideas have always been hard for the Presley family. If they fight back too hard, it looks like they have something to hide. The reports get even more crazy if they don't say anything. All of these ideas, though, hide something much worse. Elvis didn't have to die that way. People around him could have kept him alive if they had cared more about his health than their own money. But the crazy stories that he was still living let those people off the hook. When the sale ended, they did something brave. Riley Keough did what no one else in her family had ever done before. She gave permission to open the locked attic. What had been kept secret for almost 50 years? The attic door opened. There was a small group of archivists wearing white gloves who went up the narrow stairs at Graceland on a cold January morning in 2025. Their steps could be heard in the empty room. Since August 1977, no one had been up there. The air was full of dust that hadn't been touched in almost 50 years. But up above them, behind a locked door, there was still a part of the house that wasn't changed. No one dared to open the time capsule because it was sealed. The head archivist slowly turned an old brass key that had been in the Presley family since Elvis died. The lock was lit by a single bare bulb. The door opened with the sound of years of waiting being held back. People were quiet when light came in for the first time in almost 50 years. It didn't just look like a dusty old storage room, it looked like a well-kept time vault. The attic was neatly divided into areas that each told a different story about Elvis's life. This was done by Elvis himself or someone close to him. No one thought the room would be that big. It went across the whole top of the house and had thick blackout curtains over the attic windows. The attic wasn't as fancy as the rest of Graceland, which is known for its big, flashy style. The walls and floors were just plain wood. Somehow the room felt very cool because of a small air conditioner that was still on. The Graceland repair staff had kept it running for years without ever going inside. There were a lot of boxes along one wall, and Elvis wrote the names on each one. On the titles it says First Recordings, Army Days, Hollywood, Comeback Special, and Vegas. It looked like he had made a personal chart of his life. But the one box that stood out the most was marked with the word after and the year 1977, which was his death year. It was time for the archivists to get to work. Before they touched anything, they took pictures of everything. Like in a museum, each box had a number and a detailed list of what was inside as well. They could look through it all for months, but some things stood out right away. They found an old teddy bear in the Tupelo area. It was missing one eye and had a lot of spots on it. This wasn't a gift for fans or a memory. Family papers showed that this was Bear, Elvis's favorite toy from when he was a poor child. Gladys, his mother, had sewn the patches together from pieces of her own clothes. The worn flower designs on its chest and arms could still be seen. Vern, Elvis's dad, went to jail in 1938 for making bad checks, which almost broke Gladys and Elvis. Was Elvis's best friend during those scary months. They found an Army Days Bible that had been read so many times that the spine was held together with electrical tape. This wasn't just any Bible, Gladys Presley had owned it. When Elvis joined the Army in 1958, she gave it to him. She had written him a note inside the front cover telling him to stay faithful while he was in the service. Elvis had marked lyrics with underlines and written notes, questions, thoughts, and short prayers all over the pages. It was written in August 1977, just a few days before he died. He had written down Psalm 23. A leather-bound yearbook from Memphis's Humes High School was one of the most moving things that were found. Elvis didn't usually sign books for his friends. People made fun of him for his clothes and strange style because he was shy. This one, on the other hand, was jam-packed with notes and signatures. Many of the words his classmates wrote to him were positive. "Elvis, keep singing," said one note. "You'll get there." The Elvis in Hollywood part showed a different side of him. His battle with fame. A small note written by hand was in one pocket of the leather jacket that was made just for his part in Jailhouse Rock. It said to put this on when you want to slip away. Elvis often said that being famous made him feel like he couldn't live a normal life. This jacket looked like something he wore to fit in, just long enough to get away for a short time. There was a stack of books next to the movie stuff. Most people wouldn't have thought these were Elvis's songs. These talks were about faith, Eastern beliefs, and big ideas about life and what happens after we die. There were notes and marks and a lot of them. It showed a man who was looking for answers deeply, not just singing religious songs like most people thought he was. They found something that stopped them in their tracks in the Vegas section. A 1974 letter from a doctor that says it is private. The whole thing is still sealed until the family looks through it. But the cover said Elvis had heart trouble and needed to make big changes to his life. Even so, he kept playing for 3 more years. Lisa Marie Presley knew what was in the attic, but she obeyed her dad's wish to keep it secret while she was alive. Once she was gone, in 2023, Riley Keough chose to write down what was inside, but not necessarily share it. Not a secret getaway plan was hidden in the attic. The man who owned it knew his time was short and cared a great deal about how people would remember him. The last words of a man who knew his time was almost up were on old, dusty tapes. Even though the archivists were frozen in silence, Elvis's shaky but emotional speech could be heard. What else was in the attic of Graceland that wasn't obvious? What might have been hidden in Elvis's loft? Elvis Presley's locked attic was finally opened by a group of archivists in the year 2025. It was like getting into a time machine. Since August 1977, nothing had been changed inside. Nothing was moving, and it felt like no one had breathed in almost 50 years. They didn't just find old stuff, though. It looked like bits and pieces of a man that everyone thought they knew. A stack of reel-to-reel tapes with labels written in simple handwriting was one of the most surprising things that was found. The 1976 practice sessions. People weren't used to hearing songs that were so well put together. They were only for that person. Elvis was taking things slowly by himself. Besides church and blues, you could hear early electronic sounds in his mix. He was still experimenting with ideas and going in places no one had ever seen him go. Then there was a moment when there was silence in the room. It looked like unchained melody. Just his voice. There was no music or instruments. His voice was shaking, and it was moving. It was made a few months before he died. It wasn't perfect, but that's what made it so strong. Afterward, a music expert said the song made him feel like he was facing his own death. You could tell he wasn't just acting by the cracks in his voice. Every word made him feel. They kept looking and found things that were much more personal than sparkly stage clothes. Wrote songs on notebook pages, napkins, and hotel stationery. There were crossed out lines and small notes to himself on some of them. It's possible that the lyrics on one sheet were different from the ones that were used in the final form. It really showed how his mind worked. But maybe the saddest thing was the stack of fan letters that had not been opened. They are still sealed, just like they were when they arrived. Soldiers wrote letters to thank him for making them feel better. People in his family talked about how his music helped them get through hard times. Some young artists asked for help. In a letter from 1976, someone begged him to stop traveling and take care of his health. It was never opened. This could have changed how things turned out if it had been. These things found in the attic told a bigger story than any account ever could. They showed a man who was strong and hurt, who made history and saved old toys for kids. There was a man who read fan letters even though he was having his own problems. A man who was trying out risky new songs even though his health was getting worse. The things that fans found made them feel at peace. He didn't just leave behind random junk. They were meant to be kept. He made them feel like they should stay at Graceland. But not everyone had a sense of resolution. Some people thought the mystery got deeper. Why did these very private things stay hidden for almost 50 years? What else could still be hidden? Is there more to Elvis's story that no one knows about yet? The Presidential Medal of Freedom was given to Elvis in 2018. It showed once again how important he was to Americans, not just as a singer but as someone who changed music for good. But maybe the awards and records aren't what he does best. There may be a man in those attic boxes that people are still trying to figure out, hidden behind the gold awards and fancy costumes. Thanks for seeing it. Post a review, like, and subscribe. If you click on the movie on your screen, you can see another interesting one. We'll see you next time.